Good morning, everybody out there, 511. We got a little bit of a different show for you today on our 50th episode. I'm a little bit sad that our regular co-host, Jarrett Branch, isn't able to join us today. He's got some previous commitments, but we got a fire panel for y'all. We got Mike Boudreau, Emma Sarah McMillian, Kenton Young, and our lovely Renata Da Silva. Last but certainly not least, she's kind of my boss in a way. So love having Renata on here. But guys, we're gonna be coming to you with some awesome stuff today. Before we do, want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Covenant Coffee. Covenant Coffee does some amazing things in Bakersfield. We want to thank you for your support, Covenant Coffee. Randy Martin, everything you do for the Emancipated Foster Youth of Kern County. You guys go check them out online at covenantcoffee.org. Or if you're in Bakersfield, 2 locations, Mohawk in California and North Chester. Covenant Coffee, thank you for everything you do. We're going to get right into this because if you guys follow us for any length of time, and what's up, Brock? Always good to see you here, brother. If you guys follow us, you know that on these panel days it's packed and we got to move fast. So we were having a great discussion right before we went live today about the election and the direction of everything. And, we were talking about Kamala versus Trump and debate, media bias, assassination attempts, political violence against conservatives. All of these things. And Mike, I want to go straight to you because we started the conversation and I think you had some amazing things to say. And I agree with you, by the way. And the sad part is we talk about the average person who votes, right? And I don't know. I struggle with this one because I think every citizen, and only citizens, by the way, not illegal immigrants, should vote. And Mike, you deal with illegal immigrants on a regular basis. You deal with the border and all this stuff. You've been all over Newsmax and Fox and everywhere else talking about this stuff. And also talking about, and I want you to go ahead and comment on this, how you do not support Kamala and the sheriffs do not support Kamala. But they're trying to gaslight the American public and say that she does. But the average voter knows nothing about what's going on in the news, and really, frankly, a lot of the people that I'm close to don't really know. And a lot of people come to me and probably the rest of you guys also, hey, what's going on in the world? Because the average person's uninformed. And really, it takes quite a bit to stay up to speed and up to date on what's going on. So I don't blame them. But that is exactly why they're so easily manipulated and why the polls show that Kamala and Trump are close. And even though the manipulated polls, the gaslighting polls show that they're close, they still show Trump's ahead. And because, they can only lie so much. And I put out a video just yesterday and I shared it with some other people privately as well about the Rasmussen polls showing, Trump's leading. And with the Gutfeld interview, he got an even bigger bump. But Mike, I want to hear, kind of the direction we were going with this conversation. What do y'all think is going to happen in the election coming up in November?
Well, I personally think that with the election coming up in November, God's in control and he's going to win.
That's right.
But I will tell you that, we have to be really careful to only pay attention to the circles that we surround ourselves with. And so when we're sitting here with this group, all of us pretty much probably, and I haven't spoken with everybody, but understand the manipulation that takes place. And unfortunately, what we find is most Americans just want to be able to buy food, buy gasoline. They want to be able to have their kids live in a safe environment. They want their kids to receive a quality education. And that's the circle they live in. And there's nothing wrong with that. They want to go to church on Sunday every morning and make sure that their family unit is cared for. And when they see that things are struggling and they see that, they can't hardly afford gasoline or food, and they got to decide between the two. And quite frankly, we may get into this later. I deal with people on a daily basis who don't even eat every day. And that's shocking to a lot of people, but the messaging just doesn't get out there. And what we find is when we get close to an election, it's 30 days out. That's when people start paying attention. 30 days out. They're not paying attention to a lot of the hubbubaloo that's going on right now with trying to manipulate the voter. What I personally think, as we talked about before we aired on here, is that the left and the left media, is trying to influence that voter coming into the last 30 days, trying to fool us that the polls are closer than they are. I think Trump is way up. I think that he's up by double digits, and they know this. And so that's why we're starting to see some of these, you know, when it comes to the assassination attempt, I personally believe there's going to be another one, if not two more. And so I know that in law enforcement, they're upping their guard on him. But there's a lot of back scene things that are taking place just because I know people in Secret Service. And you know, but I'll tell you, they have to kill him because they're going to at least try to kill him. They're not going to be successful because God's got him covered. But when he gets into office, people are going to go to jail, and they know it.
Yeah.
There's enough evidence out there, and that evidence has been submitted to Congress, and there's where it sits. And people are going to go to jail, and they absolutely know this. And so I think that they're trying to manipulate it so that they're showing that the polls are close, so that when they start dropping these fake ballots into these ballot locations, that it's not going to be a shock. They have to be far more careful this time than they were with the Biden administration because we're watching.
Yeah, and what's crazy, Mike, and guys, so you watching, Mike Boudreau is Tulare County Sheriff in California, deals with, as sheriff, a lot of the issues that we're going to be talking about today, has worked with Secret Service and has been widely publicized all over media for some things recently. And he was previously running for a congressional seat. So Mike is very well in the know on things that are going on. You know, the interesting part about this, Mike, is that the media is telling us that Trump is going to, you know, imprison his political opponents, but they're gaslighting us because there's very good reason and just cause for him to do that. So they're trying to get ahead of it and say, "Oh, look, and see, we told you he was going to do." Yeah, well, there's a reason why he's doing it. It's not just because they disagree with him.
No, that's exactly what's happening. They're preparing. They're preparing the public because not only are they looking for this election, they're looking 4 years down the road. They're looking at the next election already. They're not stupid. They're smart. And they know that they're at risk at this next election. So they got to look to the next one. So they're going to gaslight and they're going to say, hey, look, he's going to imprison his political opponents. Well, there's people going to go to jail when he gets in office because they have committed crimes. But they want to manipulate that story and make you believe, hey, look, we told you so. So I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah. Well, and they've been doing it for a long time. And I said before, I was surprised that they actually changed out Biden because I felt, and I still feel, like they know they're going to lose this election, and so whatever candidate's in there is almost a throwaway candidate. And so, but they were. I think that Biden was just doing so poorly. They're like, we can't let him continue. Like the American public's just gonna, like, it's going to be like 40%, like a Reagan level victory for Republicans, and it might still be that way anyway. Aside from the you know, like you were saying, manipulation and everything else, Mike. But Emma, Sarah, let's talk to you about the media manipulation, because you're heavily involved in media and invested in this election, and just right alongside us is, you know, almost an extended part of our family at 5'11". You know, you're fighting the same fights that we are.
Yes. Well, media manipulation. We're at this stage in history and in our nation where, you know, what is truth? When a man can look at his body and say, I'm a woman, when a little child who's a boy can look at his body and say, I don't know if I'm a girl or a boy. This is the epitome of what it looks like when we have people who are literally feeding our children, feeding society, feeding the education system. There is a conglomerate of, you know, this force to recreate truth. So that way, when they come and give us lives, we just, you know, they're spoon feeding them to us. You know, and just as, you know, Mike was saying about the election right now and the spinsters that are trying to make it look like Kamala so much in the lead. One of the sites our family likes to watch is called Election Time. And he's been watching the polls for a long time. And so I want to encourage you guys to go check out Election Time. Is it election night? I think it's election night or Election Time. But we're following the polls on there, and Trump is showing ahead, and it's going based upon, you know, the information that they already have, and then the past information. So he's he's weighing everything out. And so right now, I just want to encourage whoever's watching the audience to not be so trusting of what you hear online and to actually go and do your research. I mean, we watched the election, or the debate, and I was in a university theater when I watched it. And so there was Kamala supporters, there were Trump supporters, and we got to watch it. And I love that I got to watch it in a live audience to see what people were actually, because we're all, we could be in our houses watching the debate, not really knowing what's going on except what was fed to us. Okay. But I'm telling you, I was in a university that is probably considered liberal. All right. They didn't want us there. Okay. They didn't want us there. So I'm not going to say because I didn't sign any paperwork. So I'm going to be respectful and honor them and not say where we were. But I'll tell you this is that people do not want to be lied to. Okay. They don't want to be lied to. And so there is, I believe, an uprising of people who are starting to say, you know what? I do understand that you're feeding me lies. I do understand that you want to control me. I do understand that you don't have my best interests at stake. And those are the people who are actually sitting down and saying, I really want to hear truth. And so for those of you who are the truth seekers on here, go and see what the history was of each candidate. This is a beautiful election because we can literally go and say, what did Trump think on this issue? Or not think, but actually, put into legislation, support, veto, or whatever it was that he did. And what did Kamala do? Kamala saying, I'm going to do this for the economy. I'm going to do this about inflation. But what has she done thus far? She's been in office silently. Nobody even knew where Kamala was. She wasn't saying much of anything. And the truth is, a lot of people didn't even like her as the vice president. So how is it possible that all of a sudden she's going to be the winner and she has all this popular vote when she wasn't even liked while she was the vice president? And so I think that for those of us who don't want to be lied to, that this is a beautiful election because we're going to come together. We're going to come together strong, and we're not going to believe the lie. And for syndications and for media outlets like 511 Media, I believe that God has a special wind over what he's doing with truth-based media. And this is not about everything that we stand for is Trump and I'm a Trump girl. No, I'm a truth girl, and I lean to truth. And I lean towards my family. And as Mike was saying, where are people right now? I have a family of 10. I am concerned about the border. I'm concerned that there are people being let into our land who are not only stealing jobs or being given jobs. Maybe they're not, to be honest with you, in fairness to them, they're coming looking, many of them, for a good life. Not all of them. We know where there's traffickers and everything else. But for those who are coming looking for a better life, they're not stealing jobs as much as they're being handed them by our government. And so it's not the illegal immigrants that are stealing jobs. It is literally our government that is taking jobs from those of our citizens and giving them away. So willfully taking. So I would say the government, the administration right now, I would say, to make it really clear, the administration is literally stealing from our nation, from our citizen, and giving it to other people. And that's a bottom line. And that's what this current administration is doing. So I'm saying, if you want freedom of speech, if you want safe borders, if you want your family to be in line for the things that we as a nation are putting our, we're giving into taxes, we're paying into because we work hard for it. So we want some security, but it's being given away. I think those are the things that should be driving us to the poll this election.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's absolutely at this point, it's not about, left versus right. And I put out a short little video about this yesterday. It's not, I have a slight disagreement on this policy or that policy. It's literally about good versus evil at this point. And, there was another article, that came out yesterday, and I talked about this as well. That 158 of the Democrats in Congress voted against a bill to deport illegals convicted of sex crimes. So and they were all Democrats, right? And were there Republicans? I don't, and there obviously we have media bias on both sides. And so were there Republicans that voted against this bill? I don't know, but there could have been. But Mike, as someone who's been intimately involved with the border and crime and all these things, what is the agenda? Why would they put up resistance to deporting criminals that are convicted of sex crimes? That's the second crime they committed, because the first crime they committed was coming here illegally in the first place.
Well, because they're not thinking on their own, they're thinking down party line. And so it's like a gang. If you separate yourself from that gang, you are ostracized. You will no longer be allowed within the group. And it's unfortunate, I have not only Republican friends, but Democrat friends. I have a lot of Democrat friends who believe in safety. They believe in God. They're anti-abortion. They believe in border security. But we have people who are in elected office here in California. Our Sacramento government is a train wreck. And it's because they vote party line. They are not thinking independently. They're not thinking for their constituency. And that's what's happening. And they have to make sure and vote party line. So they don't care what it says. They just know they have to stick with the group. And I like what Emma had to say on a couple different things. But I have to tell you, when it comes to our immigration, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to those who are seeking true asylum, when it comes to those who are wanting to leave a country of violence and hate, we have a lot of that here in California. California's dealt with illegal immigration for 100 years. And so I deal with an illegal immigration community that I have to provide public safety to. I mean, we have women who've been raped. We have kids who have been sexually abused. And when they're sitting in these communities, I, as a sheriff, can't turn a blind eye to these victims who are here illegally. But we have people who are coming into this country just trying to live better lives. But the problem is that what I face is that we have the illegal criminal element that is coming across the border. I spoke about this in Congress just last week, where I talk about we have these illegal migrant communities who are just here working pretty much field labor. But now we have this illegal criminal element that they had fled from, who are now living in their communities. And what I testified before Congress is that these communities are living in fear, they're terrorized, and they have to do what's called paying rent. And paying rent means is that if you want to live in this migrant community, most of these migrant farm towns are about 1,000 or so, but we have several. But if you want to live comfortably and peacefully in there, you got to pay rent. And not only do you have to pay your rent or your mortgage, you have to pay the gang lord, the drug lord, the gun runner, the drug dealer, and you have to pay them an extra so much a month if you want to live peacefully there. And not only that, your children have to work for them. They have to run guns. They have to run drugs. They have to run, they're involved in human trafficking and many times sexual activity with these drug lords, gun lords. And here's the problem. You allow these illegal immigrants to come across the border, but you're also allowing the criminal element to come across the border. And all of that they fled are now right here. And so we have this criminal activity that's taking place. There's no safety for them. There definitely has to be a better plan. I have a plan. No one seems to want to listen to that plan because it's too reasonable. Back to the part where you asked the question about why are these Democrats voting that way? Well, because they're voting party line. They're not looking for the people anymore. And we have to get elected officials in position who actually think reasonably, think on their own, and vote the way that the American people would want to live safely, economically, and peacefully.
Yeah, and I think, Mike, I know about this because I have relationships with law enforcement officials, and I know you're very well in tune with this. But what most people, and especially outside of California, because California is probably the worst by far of it, what most people don't realize is, first of all, you can't go a block in California without seeing somebody on the street corner selling something or begging for money, right? You can't go a single block. But what most people don't realize is almost every single one of those people are in human trafficking. Like they're out there peddling, whether it's a La Rosa bar or it's the flowers or whatever. Like that's not money they're taking back to their family. That's money they're taking back to their handlers, right?
No, that's exactly what's happening. You see these people in California anyway, is that we have a lot of people on corners. They're selling snow globes and stuffed animals and all these things, but they're not selling it, nor do they get the money for their family. They're paying their trafficker. And that's a debt that will never be paid.
Right.
They are constantly paying back their trafficker. And we in law enforcement try to get them to tell us about it. They're afraid. They're not giving us all the detailed information. It's this vicious cycle until we secure that border. We must secure that border. And there's ideas and plans that we can put in place. And here's something else I said in Congress, because we got to be careful in pigeonholing the Mexican national community.
Mhm.
This isn't just about Mexico. This is about Venezuela. This is about El Salvador. This is about people across this world trying to get into this country who hate us, who want to kill us. Iran, Iraq, Syria. They're all coming across this border. What we should be doing is working with the Mexican government. We should be working with the Mexican government to make not only America safer, but make Mexico safer. And I had someone on the sideline, they told me, they said, yeah, but the Mexican government, they're so corrupt. I said, our government is corrupt. So at some point, we're going to have to put the quality people on both sides of the fence. Look, economically, Mexico and America could be working so strongly together with an immigration plan that we can be strong and secure. But because of this party line issue, and here's something else, and I'll ramble too much. I'll go ahead and slow down. But see, for Americans, we're used to very short wars, right? World War II, less than 5 years. World War I, less than 5 years. All of our wars are short. Iran, Syria, all these countries are used to 500-year wars. They're very patient. So what's happening is we're infiltrating this country with people that hate us. And their plan is not 10 years from now. Their plan is long-term because Americans aren't seeing it. How many of us forget about 9/11 until the 9/11 ceremony comes around? How many of us remember the last police officer that was shot and killed or their family had to go to a funeral? We don't. We cycle through that media cycle and we forget and move on as long as our bills are paid. And that's unfortunate. But these countries across the world are used to long-term wars, and that's what we're facing.
Yeah, we 100% agree, and I've said that many times on our show, Mike. That like for example, one of our biggest, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, even though we we might get shut down. But one of our biggest enemies is China, right? And we're thinking in 4-year cycles at the most. China's thinking of 400-year cycles. So it's exactly as you said, and I've said this before. Like they're if we don't change the strategies and the way we're approaching this, like we're going to lose. Like, do we look like we're winning right now? Yeah, we might be winning in the short term, but in the long term, our long-term strategy just doesn't exist. And, my question for Renata is, why are people just like blind to this? Like, why are people just allowing this to go on? Just a regular everyday person that like, I know you and the rest of us on this panel, Renata, are in tune with what's going on in the world, but why are most people just oblivious to this? And they think, well, I'm going to go vote for Kamala, first of all, because I'm black, so they said I got to vote for Kamala because I'm black. But they don't even agree with most of her policies. But they're being told, And I had this the reason I keep saying this, and maybe everybody on this call hasn't heard me say it, but if you keep listening, you'll hear me say it time and time again. They think Kamala's going to bring rainbows and puppies and unicorns, and everybody's just going to be happy. I've literally had conversations with people on the street that say, "Oh yeah, I can't wait for the election. I can't wait for November because Kamala's going to bring joy back." First of all, if you look at her policies are very much geared towards the opposite of that, but. Renata, why do you think people are just so oblivious to this?
Well, the scripture says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge. And I believe that's what it is, a misinformation. Everything that the left accuses of the right doing is exactly what they do themselves. So it's the deceiving part of it that we see day in and day out. People, especially our generation, is the generation microwave. So everything has to be fast and quick. Let's go. So people don't have time to process, and people lately are not thinking. You are being told, you are being informed, but you don't do your own research about what's happening, not only locally, nationally, and abroad. And they just being fed into these lies day in and day out. And what everyone is saying, like what I heard Mike said, both Mike said, and then Emma Sarah, Kenton, myself as an immigrant, like I can speak as an immigrant. I'm not speaking, I have dual citizenship. I don't take that lightly. I believe the citizenship of being a citizen of this country is a privilege. It's not a right, it's a privilege. I'm privileged to have the honor of swearing that day in Boston. I say Boston because that's what I came. How you doing? That's what I came first when I came to the United States in 1996. And, the difference is like, we came in and we had opportunities, even though like people are being deceived, even illegals, they have no idea what to expect. They're being lied to. Like they promise them this beautiful world, this beautiful planning, and they leave a lot behind them as well, because they have to sell their homes. They have to pay these gangs, like Michael Joe was saying, like they have to pay the coyotes, that they pay a lot of money. It's like 30, 50 grand, even 100 grand to be here in the United States. And people
And they're
have
never going to make that much money in their whole life.
they have no idea. That's what they've been promised. And I see illegal immigrants are the new blacks in the hands of the left, because they're using them as token to, illegal voting. How in the world, in my country, in Brazil, because I'm originally from Brazil, you cannot vote if you're not a citizen. Even though we here in the United States, we have to go through a whole process in order to be eligible to vote. So how in the world that we have so many crazy laws that we see in the United States that they break into? It's illegal. Like I tell my people when they get on me, oh, Renata, you're not defending us, you're not standing for the Brazilians, you're not talking about us. You said, hey, when you lie, you know you lie. When you go to that interview, you came in and said, I'm going to be a tourist, right? And you coming here and you stay and you overstaying your visa. You know the consequences. Every action has a reaction. Even in the scriptures, David sinned, but there was consequences to his life. So we have to be held accountable for our own actions. And I think that's what's lacking in our country. People are not like, everybody blames somebody else. I always make a joke, excited with Adam and Eve. Oh, that's the woman that you gave me. That's because that's the fault of it. Like, okay, it's because of Eve. But Adam didn't take, okay, I did it. I listened to her. You know what I mean? Like, you are responsible for your own actions. And Kamala, Chameleon, as everybody says, right? She's a joke. Even in that debate with President Trump, I said, I wish I was there to say, who's coaching President Trump? I would have said it to him differently. When he was on that stage and he said, oh, you've been diminishing a black woman, Kamala's black. Why you didn't say she's black? Well, because she herself doesn't present as a black woman. She's a chameleon. She's black. She's Indian. And then she comes to the South. She calls like, hey, y'all. She's talking Southern, and then she comes into Washington, D.C. She talks totally different. She's just not representing the Black community. Have you seen videos after videos out there of women, Black women like myself, that are not with her? And we are not apologizing for it because she's phony. She's not speaking to the American people as President Trump does. Like this man, MAGA, make America great again. Yes, we need to make America great again, because coming from a country like I did, I'm seeing what like Brazil is neighbors to Venezuela. We saw what happened to Venezuela. Venezuela was one of the most prosperous country in South America. And look at what happened. And it was not an overnight thing. It's like through the years, little by little, taking the rights of the people. And that's the same thing that they do in here in the United States. As if we notice, like that's why I love what we do here at 511 Media, because we are media. And they trying to silence the majority. It's not the minority. They're trying to silence us with the media. Like everything you say, it's not true. It's fact check. Like they were fact checking President Trump, but they never fact checked the other candidate. How is that possible? How is that acceptable? But they don't understand that people are seeing, people are watching, and we are really, we're going to represent that on the polls, but we should not, like Emma Sarah said, we should not be comfortable and say, oh, we already won this election. No, we're going to have to keep digging in and making sure that we come in massive numbers and even vote early. Early voting is going to be important because we don't know what can happen on election day. I think Mike has been saying this day in and day out.
Yeah.
And also, as Christians, we should not apologize for our positions. Right. We should not apologize for standing for life. I'm pro-life. Yes, I'm an abortion survivor. I survived for such time as this, and people don't talk to us, the survivors. And we need to have our voices heard. Enough is enough of this mess. Enough is enough of killing babies. That's a sin. And the blood of these children are crying out from the ground to, towards the nation. United States is knowing outside of the borders of United States as a country that brought the gospel all over the world. And what are we representing now? That's why they're attacking our faith so much. because they know with the values and faith, the reasoning of God, there is no argument. Because, it's like I said at the beginning, even with you see it with homosexuality, at the beginning, God had an option. He created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. So we got to stop with this nonsense, and really Christians taking a stand and not be afraid. Whatever they call you, if God is for us, who can be against us? Then no weapons formed against us shall prosper in the name of Jesus. And I'll keep claiming, and I'll keep speaking, because that's why I survive. I truly believe that God brought me here, brought me to this country, and I love this country. I love this land, and I'm not apologizing for my position.
Yeah. Thank you, Renata. And so, Kenton, as much as you work with the urban communities as the state director for Blexit in Florida, the urban communities, the minorities, are the ones that are so easily manipulated and been lied to for decades, right? Obviously, you're someone who has your eyes open, and you're helping to get the message out, but. How are they being manipulated, and why are they so easily manipulated?
Wow. You've heard the phrase before, that the bold prince giveth and the fine print take it away. In the minority communities, a lot of people don't read, they don't study, they like to take the easy way out. They don't, they're not well versed. And then on top of that, it's all about our group doing what our group does. Even in the churches, it's so sad. A lot of even the churches, they compete against each other. It's this competition. And so the goal is to keep us ignorant, where we don't know any things. And number two, stay uninformed. And we really gravitate to a lot of the media. And we gravitate to stations that are our media, like our people are let me not listen to another media outlet. Let me just listen to this main media outlet. It's going to give me the information that I know that I want to read, of this person accomplishing this, which is okay. It's all good. But the question is, are you being fed the truth? Are you getting information that is true? And to be honest with you, a lot of people are not. They're not getting that information. And dealing with a lot of the in the minority community, it starts with a lot of these the parents they're just lost. The parents are lost, the children are lost, and it's about identity. It's about basketball shoes, about how you look. Who's driving a nice fancy car, who's got the clothes and stuff. It's about that versus it being about morals and your values and your principles. As you all are talking, this scripture came to my mind was in Joshua 1:9 says, "Be strong and courageous." And a lot of our people, they're ignorant. They're not paying attention. They're being informed with the incorrect information. And the aha moment for me and my wife, more so my wife, was when somebody took the time out to literally show the little things. Like, let me kind of show you, and how it tracked and went all the way back in history. But a lot of people don't want to take the time to do that. They don't want to take the time to sit there and educate and share. And let me just say that again: take the time and educate individuals on what's really going on. Let me show you, because in their mind, the media outlet that is the one that they listen to is the gospel. I believe what he said. You can't tell me nothing different. Well, first of all, that person is sitting over there in that studio, and how can you tell that what they're telling you is true? I had somebody the other day that tagged me on a message. They tag me every day now because they know I support President Trump and stuff. They know I support. They tag me every day, and DJ Rump and all this and stuff. And I said, just out of curiosity, quick question: can you please verify how the information is factual? No, fact check it. I'm like, okay. Let me ask you again. Can you please verify? And that's how a lot of them are in the community. They just like, this is the gospel. You can't tell me anything different. Fact check it. And they don't want to listen to reasonable advice. But also, the Bible does talk about how God will give them over to their own delusion. He will give them over. He just, so you can sit there and you can speak and tell them over. It's like, okay, God, I give them to you. One plants, one waters. At the end of the day, God gives the increase. I can't try to convince them anymore of doing something. I gotta plant the seed and then ask the Holy Spirit just to, Lord, the seed's been planted, please. But can you go in there, please, and do something, because it's quite hurt. It's quite hurtful. It's hurtful and it's sad. And I'll say this, and I'll stop. For me, at what point do you get up and start talking and start speaking out against a lot of this stuff? When do you start doing it? And the time is now. Like, you can't be quiet now. You can't be silent now. And you'll have people that are close to you that have a strong influence on your life, and they'll say all kind of crazy stuff to you. You're kind of like, no, I don't want to say anything because I want to touch it. I don't want to mess anybody's feelings. But it comes to that point when God speaks to you and says, if you don't say anything, then the blood will be on your hands. I'm like, well, that's enough. I can't do it. So now I gotta, and even in the midst of everybody just like, shut up, be quiet, stop talking. No, you gotta speak out. And I think that now there are people that are waking up now in the minority community. They're waking up to it, but they need to be educated. Now, another thing too also is that, I'll say this, is that there are certain trigger phases. In marketing, you got to be careful on how you say certain things, and how you deliver things. And there's certain trigger things. If you say, let's say you bring up MAGA, like, oh my gosh, automatically triggers, like a reaction into them, versus just talking to them about different values. You're like, husband and wife, it's between a man and woman. Would you agree? Absolutely. And then you literally just walk them through, and then, you'll start to see things unravel. Well, hey, by the way, we all agree. We just agreed on all points. And I didn't even bring up MAGA. Oh, you got me, Kenton. Ah, shucks.
Well, because reality is most of the urban communities actually agree with most of the conservative values. I talk to them every day. Renata, Kenton, both of you guys talk to them every day. Emma, Sarah as well. And Mike, I think you talk to a lot of minority communities every day as well. And so we are, in a place, and we talked about media manipulation. And so I know for a fact that, I can go out there and, use their side article, CNN, which is obviously known biased leftist media source, and comment on their articles, and then when I put it out on social media, they'll call it misinformation. And I'm like, I'm bringing what you guys said, and you're telling me that it's like you guys said it. What now? Because I'm saying it, and I'm not wearing, metaphorically, I'm wearing a MAGA hat. Well, it's misinformation because you said it. Well, you said it first. But, Mike, one of the biggest things that we're facing is right now, and is on the ballot in November, is the economy. And I asked a question on social media the other day. I said, can you really say you're better off now than you were 4 years ago? And there's a lot of people that say, well, yeah, no, I can. Well, first of all, you're lying. Second of all, you might be an outlier, but most people I know as a business owner, that wages have gone up, cost of living has gone up, our expenses have gone up, and but we're not seeing that in our pocketbook. We're not seeing that hit the bottom line. And Mike, you said just earlier that you talk to people on a daily basis that don't even get to eat every day. So how is the economy facing your people just right in your backyard?
Well, I don't think it's just in our backyard. I think it's all across the country.
Yeah,
I think, most people, when you're looking at a middle class income, they can't even afford their mortgage, much less rent. And I talked to a lady just the other day. They were deciding between certain groceries at the store versus being able to put gas in their car to get to work. And I applauded her for going to work and not living on welfare services. But we're finding more and more people on welfare services that, quite frankly, is going to bankrupt the state of California. And the state of California is giving things away free. And sometimes I argue, why do you blame people for coming to this country when we're giving so much away for free? But eventually, and this is how socialism works, eventually what happens is you run out of other people's money. And then you rely on the government, and the issue is the government's going to go bankrupt. California is very close to going bankrupt. And, when it comes to Kamala Harris, the big issue, if I was Trump, I would sit there, and he has a hard time sitting there being quiet. And I love that about him because he's been bullied and pushed around and targeted and attempted to be killed. But, the reality of it is Kamala Harris is not going to be able to get away from her track record. She's not going to be able to walk away from the last 3.5 years. And frankly, I've known her since she was the attorney general and as well as a senator here in California. And she has a track record of doing exactly what has been happening during the presidency with her sitting as vice president. She was the spearhead for Proposition 47. And for your listeners, basically what that is that they wanted to release people from jail who were nonviolent, non-serious, and non-sexual crimes. And we began to dump people out of jail back into the communities where they can continue to reoffend. And we're seeing these violent thefts that are taking place that we see all over the news where we have these gang thefts. It's basically robbery, gang robbery, going into stores and doing what they're doing. And I can't get away from, and I'll always fall back on this, is that she spearheaded and championed defunding the police. She spearheaded and championed when we had our BLM riots where buildings were being burned down and police officers were being killed and innocent citizens were being, seriously hurt and killed. And she was, raising money to help bail people out of jail. She can't get away from that track record. And that doesn't speak public safety. That doesn't speak safety to the community. And every one of those issues impacts our economy. She can't get away from it. She was anti-fracking, and here in California, especially in Kern County, we have so much oil under the ground. Kern County should be the richest and most prosperous county in the nation, but fracking is not allowed. Fracking has been proven to be a very safe program. She was anti-fracking, and now she's talking about being pro-fracking. The issue is she's a continuous habitual liar. I don't support her. The majority of law enforcement does not support her. She can't get away from her track record. And that's what we need to push. And that's what President Trump needs to push is take a look at your track record. Let's go back 10 years. Let's take a look at Trump for 10 years and let's take a look at your record for 10 years. And that's what we talk about.
Well, Mike, I've been watching this and seeing all this go on for such a long time now, and as someone who's lived in California, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And where it really kind of like started spinning out of control was I believe in 2020, and you started seeing homeless everywhere. I don't understand to what end is, specifically in California, but that now they're saying, oh, well, let's put Kamala in the White House, she doesn't even know her own policies. And this is why she doesn't make sense when she talks. And I've said this about Joe Biden. I'll say this about Kamala. The reason why she can't articulate herself is because she's regurgitating things she's been told to say. She doesn't even believe what she's saying anyway, right? So she can't articulate herself because they're not her own ideology. She's just saying whatever she was told. And so when she's put on the spot, she's like, I can't think critically about this because I never did in the first place. But Mike, as California is on the verge of bankruptcy, what happens to California when they do go bankrupt?
Well, they're going to have to reach out to the federal government for help. And, unfortunately, if it's President Trump in office, you better hope it's a new governor because him and Newsom don't really see eye to eye.
Not even close.
But, at the end of the day, California is still part of the United States and the federal government hopefully comes in and assists. But we're on the verge of bankruptcy. And when you're talking about our homeless issue across the country, specifically in California, what we did was under Proposition 47 is say that using drugs is no longer a serious crime. And so in times past, when you would come into my jail, we would provide you counseling services, rehabilitation services, we would provide you medical services. And then when you were released from jail, you had somewhat of a fighting chance to overcome that addiction. Now, when you come into my jail, you're released within 4 hours. You never see a counselor. You never go through a rehab program. And when you have a drug addictive behavior, you have to be forced. You got to be forced to go through a program. And that's what the court system used to do. We don't have that anymore. That's not the only issue why we have a homeless crisis, but that's a major factor into why we have a homeless crisis, because we're no longer mandating services to those who are needing help. And until you reach the bottom floor or near death, many people will never seek help. And even after that, the addiction is so strong that they would rather almost die than step away from that addiction.
And many of them do die.
We have failed our citizens. The California government has failed our citizens, and that's why we have such a problem. And you know, when you have drug addictive behaviors, oftentimes that bleeds into drug addictive psychosis and mental health problems. And so we have drug addictive behaviors and those addicted to drugs, and we have those with mental health crisis, all living on the streets across America because of it.
Yeah, and Mike, we could go down that rabbit hole. We could probably spend the whole episode. We probably should at some point just to have you back on just the two of us, or with Jared, to talk about, you know, California and all those issues, because you know, we're living it. You and I are living it, and we're seeing the people that are living and leeching off the system coming in, and the people that are contributing to the system leaving the state in droves. And you know, we've seen probably your hometown, your home county, Mike, Tulare, and my home county, my hometown, destroyed over the past several years, because we still, you know, where we live is a red area in a blue state, and it's done pretty well up until about 2020, and it just like dove off a cliff, because we've seen, and I'm sure this is the same where you live, Mike, people from LA and San Francisco move into these cities, bringing their ideologies with them, and really, you know, causing a lot of damage and wreaking havoc. But the rest of you guys are living in red states, and so let's go to Emma Sarah and talk to you about what you're seeing in a red state, and I know you have blue cities in that red state that are, you know, how the economy is affecting those.
Right now, the economy, I mean, it's hard to find a job. Just you go down the road here, and the most common thing that I see locally is people are looking to work, they want to work, but they're having a really hard time finding occupations. And then on the flip side, okay, and this is not just you know, dealing with the inflation talk or the economy talk. This is talking about where we've come as a society, within how we're thinking, how we are reacting, responding as a people, as you know, mothers, fathers, as individuals. Because at the end of the day, it's us. You know, we're all here. There's, you know, what, 5 of us here, but we have all these people in our nation that create this place that we're living in. And so what's happening is, I just want to, because I'm a mother of change. You know, I'm always going to look at the family element here, is that we're human beings, and so we can talk politics all day, and I'm always going to be focused on what's happening with the individuals, what's happening with the families. And so I just want to draw it back, okay? Because you're asking about Alabama. What I'm seeing even in my area is a breakdown. One of y'all mentioned even the churches have broken down, okay? What I'm seeing is that what's happening in our election is just an indicator of what's happening with humanity in our society, okay? So that means that the people's values are being torn down. They're being lied to about, you know, just who we are as a people. Are we men? Are we women? They're being lied to. They're being lied to about who is safe and who's unsafe and who has your best interest. And I do, as we're coming to a close here, I wanted to share this with you, okay? Nobody's talking a lot about what RFK, I see it some places, but I don't feel like RFK Jr. is getting enough time. He wasn't given enough time when he was running. And right now, I don't feel what he's adding to the election, he's not giving enough, getting enough time. So I want to give this soundbite from him, okay? He said why he left the Democratic Party. He said it used to be the Democratic Party, which everybody knows, okay, the Kennedys, they are a Democratic family down, you know, through the generations. He said he left it because it used to be a party of peace. It was for civil rights. It opposed censorship, and it was about protecting the vulnerable. And he said today, the Democratic Party is a party of war, of censorship, and of surveillance, centralized control, and abolishing our ability to learn different views and abolish many of our primaries. This is a generational Kennedy who is saying, I love the people enough. This is what we need to do, is we need to be voting for people who actually value humanity enough to stand in the line of fire, which Trump did. He stood in the line of fire. And you heard Mike say that he doesn't believe that this is the last assassination attempt. And I hate to agree with him, but I don't believe that it is. So this is where we as a praying people have to pray for his protection. And I also want to just bring it back full circle here, because last night I just went to a premiere of a movie called The American Miracle, and I felt like it was very timely. And for me as a woman of God watching it, it gave me such encouragement, because the movie is about how basically, I mean, you can decide on, you know, how you want to perceive the movie, but my perception was that you walk out of the theater and you say, was God's hand on Washington, or was God's hand on the mission? Or was God's hand on both Washington and the mission? All right. And at the end of the day, because I do study and I study world religions and everything else, I know that, and the reason I'm saying this is some people want to put Trump down or say, well, Trump's not really a Christian, or he said he's a Christian, he's not a Christian. And, you know, therefore I'm a Christian, so I'm just not going to vote for anybody, because I'm not going to vote for the lesser of the two evils. But I do want to make a mention that Washington was a known Mason. Okay. And I am telling you, as a woman of God, the Lord's hand was still on him. He was still on him. He was still on the man, because the man was called for the mission, was to be the founding father of this nation. And I believe that Trump has that same anointing on his life. Is the perfect no, but we are not voting for a president and a pastor in this election. We are voting for a president. Okay. And we need somebody who is going to protect our nation, who's going to be for the people. He's already shown us that he's willing to not only take a bullet, but get up immediately and tell everybody to fight. Meanwhile, we have people like Kamala, okay, who are a puppet, dancing on a string, will dance off the stage and on the stage when she's told to, who doesn't know her own policies, like, you know, Mike was saying as well, that she doesn't know her own policies. And that I feel that everybody, okay, has to agree to some degree that she has been disingenuous so many different times, which is Renata said she's a chameleon. So I'm translating this disingenuous to chameleon to a puppet. Okay, I want everybody just to see the linear thinking here, is that the chameleon really is a puppet, and a woman who will dance on a string is not the kind of woman who will protect you, because she will always look out for her own good. And if a man who is in politics as a generation, who is not just willing to go against the Democratic Party, but who said, I am willing to stand up and away from the Kennedy family. He took so much flack. Some people were saying that he got de-willed. You know, he's been taken off some of the family wills and he has been ostracized. He stood up for us. And so those are the kind of people that we need to look to put into office. And why did he not just step out of the race to say this about the Democratic Party? Why did he, and this is where I'm going to end it, is why did he come and endorse Trump? Okay, it was one thing that he stepped out of the Democratic Party. That was only what, there was one chink off his armor already in their eyes, okay, the family's eyes. But then to go and to support Trump, he really, that was him taking a bullet from his family, okay? Because when he did that, he really stood up and stood for truth, okay? And that really showed me, wow, this guy really has some character. But I'll tell you the reason why, from what I, watched from the interviews, the reason why he decided to endorse Trump is because he did go to Kamala's team. He did try to, have a talk with them and let them know what is his heart. RFK Jr. is all about health, and he addresses autism, all the behavioral disorders, all the poison that is in our nation's food system and everything else. And he wants to make America healthier again. And Kamala wanted nothing to do with it. So now we have a man who's willing to take a bullet to make our border safer, and who's willing to listen to another candidate who says we need to make America safer. It's a no-brainer for me.
Well, it makes you question, right? Like if you look at what RFK stands for, he stands for health. He's basically taking a stand against big pharma and big food. And as someone who grew up in a farming family, I'm not against farmers. Do not mistake what I'm saying. But he's taking a stance against big pharma. She didn't want anything to do with that. I'm not going to make the connection for y'all, but I think that should speak for itself. And the other thing, and I think it was great that you said it, Emma, Sarah. But and I know Renata wants to comment on this too. But you look at Trump, a man who is a billionaire by anyone's account, a man who has no need to do what he's doing. He's being shot at, and you gotta ask yourself, well, why is he willing to take the to borrow a line from, I think, Shakespeare, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune? To suffer through those things, frankly, as someone who doesn't have to, he's how can you say he's anything but called to it? Because why else would he be doing it? Because they've been prosecuting him, and he's going to continue to receive that from the deep state and the bad actors that are in the government and in Congress, and so Renata, I know you want to comment on this, and then I want to go to you, Mike, and talk. As we close out, let you close it out for us about what we should expect to see in more potential assassination attempts, what we should expect to see from the deep state, what we should expect to see in political violence as we move forward in the next couple months. So Renata, and then go to Mike.
Okay. Yes. Well, every time I think about President Trump, I hear, like, every time I post, I have a picture with President Trump, and people went crazy on my social media, said the whole hell broke loose once they saw my picture with President Trump. And I think this is a spiritual battle. Truly, I think it's a spiritual battle, because it's something that you don't like. Like, I don't like Kamala's policies. I don't like the things that she does. I don't like the things that Biden does. I don't like the policies. I don't agree with the platform of the left, even though we hear all the time, but it's good people on the left. But if you're a Christian, this is my platform. This is my platform. Okay? If you don't abide by the words of this book, see, it's in English and Portuguese, y'all. So proving that I'm Brazilian. Here you go. If you don't go by this book, I cannot believe that you can stand for something in the policies that the left has laid before us. They did abortion on demand at the DNC. They're not hiding like before. Yeah, because at the beginning, that's how communism comes in. They're never going to show their true colors. They're going to come with all these amazing words, acronyms, Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black Lives Matter. Dreamers. Of course, everybody's a dreamer. No, Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream." They use all these to take you by the heart, but it's a deceit. It's like the serpent in the garden. They come in and said, "You don't want to be like God." That's why God doesn't want you to eat this fruit, because He doesn't want you to be like Him. And then whenever you see President Trump, what he's going through, people try to say, but look what he did, look what he said. But they don't pay attention what this man is taking for this country. And you cherish what you love. And nobody can take that from him, that this man loves this country.
That's right.
He loves to the point that he didn't take a salary. None of us. I don't work for free. Do you work for free, Mike? We don't work for
No.
free. None of the people here on this panel. He even donated. A lot of people, I talked to a lot of people in the Black community, they had no idea that he didn't take a salary. So there you see how the misinformation is out there. I've been to Mar-a-Lago. I've been to Trump's house. I was treated like gold. This man is like, it was like the love that I get. It's like, and it's crazy. The hate that I get all the time from the people that is all about love. That is all about, we are here for the immigrants. But as soon as they hear my accent and I talk about Trump, "Oh, you stupid, you dumb, you can't talk, I can't listen to you." And it's just so heartbreaking. But you know what? But God, that's how I see it. And how this man is doing what he's doing to this country, I believe God will honor him by his faithfulness. And I pray that the people surrounding him are the people really, truly that loves and cares about him, and is the people that loves this country as much as he does. Because we are tired of the sellouts infiltrated within the party, infiltrated within the government, because they knew they cannot destroy America from throwing bombs or anything crazy, do attacks towards America. They're going to try to destroy America from within. And we know it. And they're trying to put us against each other. That's how they're trying to destroy this country.
I want to kick over to Mike for the final question here. But what should we expect to see in the next couple months when it comes to assassination attempts, political violence, and all of this stuff?
I think we're going to see much more of the same that we saw during BLM. I think what they're going to try to do is create chaos. They're going to try to create disruption. They want people to be scared enough to want joy, right? I mean, her platform is joy and happiness, and of course, as you know, like Renata said, who doesn't believe in Black Lives Matter? Black lives do matter. It's all about words. Dreamers, yeah, of course, we want to support those who are dreaming for a better, future. And so I think they were smart in a sense that they're saying, look, we want joy and happiness, and Kamala represents the future so that we can all be happy. Well, and as Renata said too, we have the snake that is in the Garden of Eden, or maybe it was Mike talking about taking a bite out of that apple. It's all deceptive. And so I think that they're going to create chaos. I think they're going to create some fear so that you can hope for a president that brings you safety, joy, and peace. And it's all going to be, I think, at least in my opinion, if you go in the history of their strategy, I think there's going to be riots as we get closer. I think there's going to be, and this is a spiritual battle, is exactly what it is. And so everything is led by lies and deceit. I do think that, and I think I said it earlier on, in their minds, they have to kill him because people are going to go to jail otherwise. And their only hope in Trump not winning is that he's not living. And so I hope that I'm wrong. Emma, you're right. Man, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. And I just can't help but go on to the history of who I've been. I've been in law enforcement for 38 years. And when you have a criminal who is used to getting what they want through criminal means or by the actions that they have always taken, we have to go to the history of the Democrat Party and what's taken place recently. And let me say this, not all Democrats are that way. Those in leadership are spearheading this chaos when we talk about, and when you talk about words that they use, abortion is a woman's choice, right? Women's choice. Of course, we want women to have a choice, but not the choice to murder children. And so it's all part of, words that they use to manipulate. That's what my belief is. I think as we get closer, the demons are going to cry out. They're going to cry out because they're losing. They can't see God taking control. But look, God is in control. And I really believe that God's plan is coming together. We talked about George Washington. I think Emma mentioned George Washington. If you don't know the story, I tell the story often. George Washington took the first House of Representatives next door to a small church, and they prayed over this country. And I think God is answering the prayers of George Washington. He's not going to let this country fail. The devil's trying to spearhead action to fast forward what the end times talk about. But God's timeline is the one who's going to take control. And I'll end with this, that we must continue to pray, but we remember David when he faced Goliath. Mike, you've heard me say this before. Did David get on his hands and knees and pray in front of Goliath? He did not. He reached down, picked up 5 stones, and he went to battle. And there is nothing wrong with Christians picking up their 5 stones and going to battle. And for any Democrat elected official or any Democrat that is voting for any elected official who supports the killing of children, they need to be removed from office. You need to ask forgiveness. You need to come back over and fight for God, fight for life. And that's what we're in. And I agree with you, Renata. We're in a spiritual battle, and it's going to take prayer, but it's going to take warriors. It's going to take warriors who stand up, push back, and fight. And I think that as we get closer, to answer your question and for me to stop, I think that chaos is going to erupt because they're going to lose the battle.
Yeah, that's right. Totally agree with everything you just said, Mike. And I just want to thank all of you guys for watching. And a couple quick shout outs to Tony and to Timothy and to Brock and to Rakita, all the guys. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. God bless.